Hi, Oh, hang on. Let's do the Zoom first. Hi, Filippo. I know you're just joining now. Hello.
Hello. Hello. October 22.
Right, we are live streaming. This is amazing. Good. Right, I don't have to worry about those bits now. They're all sorted. We'll give it a few minutes for people to gather. Good to see you all today on this cold and chilly Tuesday.
Yes, very cold.
As is traditional, of course, if you want to share your LinkedIn addresses with each other, I'll remind you again later to connect, follow, and all that sort of thing. Please do. It's always good to keep your networks growing. I'll put mine in. All that right? Yeah. Of course, anyone who hasn't arrived yet won't see it, so might need to stick it in again towards the end, that sort of thing. But we'll give it till 12:33 before we kick off properly. I wonder who's our most distant attendee today. Anyone from outside the UK joining us? Or anyone, should I say, joining us from outside the UK? That would be better English, wouldn't it?
No, I'm in the UK, so it will be.
Yes, you're here today.
Yeah.
Oh, so Sandra's in Spain. Welcome, Sandra. I think this works in Spanish as well. Not ready. What to say when we're waiting to start. I was contemplating putting some sort of music on hold. I went and searched YouTube for music on hold, and you can really find all the kind of classic music on holds that you hear when you're waiting to talk to customer services somehow. No, it would be just too awful. Maybe I should compose something.
Let's talk about the weather.
Got my guitar out and play that. No, it's only a bass. That's one of those bumper stickers, isn't it? You're following the bass guitarist. Right, I think we should kick off. So, welcome. First and foremost, welcome everyone. It's November 2022. It's Tuesday. It's 12:30 in London, and that means it's time for the Convoy guest speaker session. I'm Christopher Ross, the founder of Convoy Community. For those listening for the very first time, here's a very quick summary of Convoy. We've all experienced the isolation and the loneliness of job hunting, job searching, or starting a new business. Convoy makes it better by adding in structure and accountability. You get done what you want to get done or need to get done, and you protect your mental well-being while you do it. Since we began in July 2020, we've gathered over 500 members. During the pandemic, I say 550 members actually now. I'm just going to stop that thing bleeping because it's going to annoy everybody, isn't it? I can remember what to do. It's on there, isn't it?
We can't hear the beep, by the way.
Oh, you can't? Oh, it's just me.
Or I can't anyway.
I can't either.
Oh, good. I'll stop worrying about it then. That would be good. Live show and all that. So we began back in July 2020, and since then gathered over 550 members. During the pandemic, 55% of our job seekers found new roles in just 2 to 3 months, which is a testament to their resilience and support you all have given each other. Thank you for doing all that. Convoys are groups of people on similar journeys, each with their own destination. The job seeker's journey is for those hunting for a new job, next role. Rock Your Role is for those starting and getting embedded in a new job, making the best of it. And the entrepreneur's journey is for those germinating, early stage incubating, or just wanting to support each other in new businesses and small businesses. To join us, just head over to convoycommunity.com/register, and we'll get you connected up, started, supported, and all of that. So from a housekeeping perspective, if you do have a lot of background noise or noisy keyboard, please stay on mute, but do keep cameras on if you would, and join in the conversation on camera, in the chat, and it adds to the experience. Do take the opportunity to drop your LinkedIn addresses into the chat, connect with each other. As we'll talk about later, it's always good to keep expanding your networks and keep growing them. And so to today's session. Now, I'm usually introducing someone else at this point, but this time it's me. So I'm Christopher Ross, as I said before, slightly gravelly because I've just recently been recovering from COVID. I'm an infrastructure and operations director by trade, IT guy, basically. I'm a geek. My speciality, though, now is people, unlike most geeks, IT people in particular. Currently run Convoy. It's a social enterprise, not for profit. I started it in 2020 because of the loneliness of job hunting, particularly with the backdrop of the pandemic isolation. And what started as a group of just 12 acquaintances has grown into what's at its height 9 convoys covering job seeking, entrepreneurship, and getting started. And membership varies, but as I said earlier, 550 people have been part of Convoy at various points in their journeys. And we're here for anyone who fancies a bit of community and accountability to get stuff done. I'm also a coach, mentor, and as we can see today, an occasional speaker. And that's I think that's enough about me. I think we should get on with the show, really, shouldn't we? So I am going to share my screen. And I'm going to start by seeing that bit of my screen. So let's get this out of the way. And if you've got questions as we go along, please don't excuse me. Please don't hesitate to stick them in the chat, and we'll try and keep addressing them as we go. Now, are you able to see my screen? Another thumbs up from nods. Great, fantastic.
Yes.
Okay. There will be a handout that goes with this presentation, which I assume everyone's registered for it for the session, so it'll get sent out by the extremely kind Gisela, who is my right hand in all these events. So there's it's about 6 pages now. It's grown a bit since I did this talk first in February this year, so it's grown quite a lot. Ooh, okay, we'll just mute that one. Okay, cool. So getting found for what you want to get found for. I mean, that's what LinkedIn, when you're in a job searching situation, that's what LinkedIn is really going to be your greatest asset for. When you're in a job and you're not actually looking for another job, then it's less important, or what your what you share on your profile might be slightly different. So we'll be covering aspects of that as we go through. Every one of the tips that you see here, sorry, Gisela, can I make you a co-host to just find my, that's the thing about a live show, isn't it? Oops, sorry, I muted you accidentally. Didn't mean to do that. Make you co-host. Thank you. That will keep me honest as well. Right, there we go. So LinkedIn is primarily a bit like a shop front. It's a bit like having your own website without actually having a website, and it's more than just your CV. So in a job searching or in an entrepreneurial scenario, it's there to help you get found for what you want to get found for. All of the tips that I'm going to talk about during this next hour and a half have at some stage been recommended online or in various sessions and things that you may have seen yourself, some of these, to give you just a marginal gain on some aspect. No one thing is going to suddenly make your profile into necessarily a #1 profile, but aggregating these things together, the aggregation of marginal gains, as they talk about in the Olympics, particularly the British cycling teams and rowing teams. That's how they manage to win gold medals in the end, and that's kind of what a job search can be a bit like a marathon, and it is more of a marathon than a sprint. So another quick point here is, if you're not sure how to do something I'm talking about, first option is to go and Google it, because there's lots of YouTube videos and just advice generally out there as to how to do something. If that doesn't work in true Who Wants to Be a Millionaire style, phone a friend, ask someone, ask around, ask your network. If that doesn't work, ask the audience. You could say the LinkedIn audience. You can also book a chat with me. The link will be in the handout. I can spend 30 minutes with you just reviewing your LinkedIn page, or if you want further help, we can discuss that then. The digital world changes constantly, so do keep an eye out for new things coming along, for hacks, ideas, and updates. If you would like to follow me, you're all very welcome to do that. I've unfortunately run out of connections now, so I can't connect very easily with people without throwing people out of my connection. You can see here I've got all these, this crazy number here. I do urge you, don't worry about getting that many followers or connections. It tends to just clog up your profile. We will talk about this later, but the minimum number of connections you're really after is 500 to get the algorithm interested in you. And there's a generally accepted, if you like, an optimum level of number of connections of 1,500. What that means is, once you get past 1,500, increasing your number of connections isn't going to necessarily affect how the algorithm operates. But of course, it does give you visibility to a large group of people. So there's other ways in which having a good number of connections can help. So first things first then, protecting your profile. There's a lot of phishing and other cyber crime that goes on in the world these days. So making sure that your profile is well protected is really important. There is something that you may all know about called multi-factor authentication. To find that particular setting, you go via this route. So if you click on yourself and your profile, you come to settings and privacy. We go into that, you get to see this page, and then for sign-in and security, you can go in here and you can set up two-step verification. It is typically runs through your mobile device. It'll send you a link, and you use that link as a second stage to verify when you're logging in. You won't have to use it every single time, but it is a way of helping to protect your profile from the ungodly, shall we say. But really important to do that. And I like to mention that first because you hear almost every day of even quite experienced people's accounts getting blocked, be that on, not blocked, but hijacked, whether that's on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or wherever. Even Telegram, I heard someone recently whose Telegram account got hijacked, and he just hasn't been able to get it back, so he's had to start all over again. Right, so other things you might want to do is to disable the share profile updates. Actually, it's an important one to do almost straight away, is to set your visibility. So there's a setting called share profile updates with your network. You can see it down here. While you're doing a whole load of profile updates and making changes and updating, you don't want to send every single update out to your entire network. It looks a bit spammy, but also you want to present your best new face to your audience once it's all ready to go. And while you're, as it were, work in progress, it's best to have this turned off and come back to it. And you can turn it on later, or just when LinkedIn will give you the opportunity to share an update when you've done certain changes in your profile. You'll see that as you work through it. But that's another setting to think about when you're doing a major overhaul of your LinkedIn profile. So do that first, and then it won't won't cause you problems. Next one, there's a suggestion that disabling the people also viewed. Let's get that to open up. Here we go. People also viewed. All these links will be in the handout, by the way, so don't worry about capturing them or writing them down. People also viewed. You can see that setting here. It's in general preferences under account preferences. Best to turn that one off, because then it keeps whoever's looking at your profile focused on your profile rather than chasing off into someone else's profile when you want them looking at yours. Seems fairly clear, doesn't it? Another one.
Oh, they sent me my number.
Another important update to make is your profile visibility off LinkedIn. Now that's under visibility, and the reason for doing that is when recruiters and the like are searching for people to shortlist for their roles, sometimes they'll do just a generic Google search. So you want your profile to be indexable out off LinkedIn as well as on it. So that's our first section. And now we'll start getting into some of the other nitty-gritty parts. I'm gonna have a slug of coffee. For those that know me, the gin will come later.
Christopher, we've got a couple of questions. I just want to check I've given
thank you, Sarah.
information. Teo said, will they get a replay? And I said they'll get a recording if they registered in advance, or it'll be available on Convoy page afterwards. And then Marie-Hélène said she didn't need to register, but she will still be able to access the recording, but it won't be sent directly if she hadn't registered. Is that right?
That's right, yes. So if anyone who's registered, we will automatically send you a link to the talk when it's available, and that link will also have a link to the handout.
So for Marie-Hélène, that's just if you registered through Eventbrite, but if you didn't and you just came in the normal Convoy way with the link that we have usually, then you'll be able to access it through the main Convoy page on the catch-up, but you won't be sent an email because the email only comes out if you signed up for this specific one through Eventbrite.
Absolutely, spot on. Yeah, you can. I think you can still register while the talk's running, actually, if you want to. So you can
there you go. There you go. There's
well.
a good one for Teo. If you didn't register, you can maybe do it before your 1 o'clock call.
I did register via Eventbrite, so I'm all good. Thank you.
Yeah, good, great, brilliant. Okay, right. Let's get on to one of the first practical ones. So this one is about the LinkedIn URL. Now you'll notice if we go here, you'll see this is the LinkedIn URL up here, and a standard URL. Let's have a look at one I picked up earlier. That's not quite standard. Let's see. I thought I picked one out. Let's have a look, see if I've got one. There's an example. You'll see very often when you first register your LinkedIn profile, if you don't change it, there's a series of random characters at the end of your name. It makes up your URL based on your name, as you can see for Lindsay here, and then it adds a random series of characters. That's to help make sure that it is completely unique. As soon as you have the opportunity to, you should change this. I think we're in that window over there. You can change it, and you can do that by going. I'll show you how. Let me make it easier. Let's go from the LinkedIn homepage. You'll see how to get to this. So you click on your profile up here in the tabs, and you click on. Hang on, am I doing this right? Sorry, forgotten myself. Settings and privacy. No, it's not in that, is it? I just put the link in earlier and it popped up. There we go. So you can, in your public profile settings, you'll see in the top right-hand corner, edit your custom URL. You just click on the pencil, and then you can just go ahead in this little box and edit it. Now, there's a chance that, like I did, Christopher Ross wasn't available. Another Christopher Ross, somewhere else in the world, had found it, or who knew about customizing URL, who got it first. I since connected to him and congratulated him on getting it before I did. But so I for mine, I've just added the UK on the end. Sometimes you can just keep a dash in there. Certain special characters you can't use. As it says, symbols and special characters you shouldn't use. A dash actually counts as okay, as you can see from some of these examples. Yes, you can see dashes in here. But ideally, you want to get rid of the dashes as get rid of the dashes and the numbers, and get your own name. So Paul very successfully got his own name in there. Paul Guard. Well done, Paul. So that's an easy one to do, and LinkedIn gives you just a little bit more attention once you've customized your URL. So that's that point well and truly done to death. And we'll move on to the next one, which is about profile pictures. So there's a lot of talk about profile pictures, what makes a good one, what makes a less good one. The main tips to take account of for your headshot is the picture should be recent. So if your picture is from 20 years ago, you probably want to bring it up to date. It should have just you in it. It should be uncluttered. This example here is an example of not a great picture. No disrespect to Simon, but it's a very busy background picture. There are certain circumstances where having your, as it were, your what it is you do appearing in your background might make sense. And in fact, he's in the hospitality world, and you can see this looks like it's looks like a coffee machine or a bar perhaps going on in the background, and that might just work. But normally speaking, you want your picture to be just you, a headshot. Let's have a look at some really great examples here. There's a good example, perhaps a little dark, but that's obviously a portrait picture that Greg's used there. In Canada, it's perhaps a little bit too magnified and a bit too zoomed in, but that's not going to make a huge difference. But you want to be able to show to the viewer something that just shows, just like if you were meeting at a session or something. Here's a nice example. Drew's got it's a nice gentle smile, looking straight into the camera. And this one's in black and white. That was quite popular for a while. Can look really professional. That's clearly a professional picture. Gentle smile, looking straight into the camera. Nothing wrong with that. Particularly background's a little dark maybe, but that's okay. It's plain. Here's another black and white example, Dave Perry. Now, something interesting going on here, where we can see Dave's body is pointing definitely to our right, so that's to his left. Now, there's an interesting suggestion from NLP that if you're pointing out away from your profile, so if you're pointing sort of in that direction, that's to Lindsay's right, you're drawing the attention of the reader away from the profile rather than drawing them into it. We'll come back to that one shortly. I don't know why Paul's is there. That's a good picture. It should go in the good section. So here, Jacko it's like he's not interested in his profile, and so why should we be? So it's a little tiny thing. It's drawing you out of the profile. Some of the really great ones here you'll see are drawing people in. That's a nice picture here. It's looking straight at you. Yeah, there's a good example. See, Wendy's body is tilted slightly to the left, so the direction that you're being directed into the profile. I think I've said enough about that, but it's just something when you're getting some more pictures taken for your profile or for profile pictures generally, just bear that in mind. And when, because everyone's got, most people have got decent camera phones these days. If you get someone else to take the picture, don't do it as a selfie. It's always quite obvious. But to get the picture, get them to take like tens, hundreds of pictures, and then you'll find one that really works. Again, it gets the plain background, gets you head and shoulders, either straight on or with your body facing slightly left, but your head still straight. That's the kind of thing you want to do. as I said in my handout here, smile in an appropriate, non-creepy way, if there is such a thing. So if you are going to be using the open to work flag, or frame as it's called, you want to make sure that that frame doesn't obscure your face. Now, that wasn't perhaps the best example to use for that, but this is another point about personal profile pictures. You don't really want to do anything too quirky unless the job that you're applying for is a genuinely quirky kind of job. So this has been cut from another picture, so it's not ideal. I mean, it is fairly clear, but it's not ideal. And this one likewise isn't. You can't see the person, although, okay, lean operations, there's a warehousing thing going on here, but it's not the head and shoulders, which is what a profile picture is all about. Okay, enough about pictures. Any questions about pictures? That's another good example. Good picture. Any questions? Not seeing anything popping up in there. Okay, good. Right, we shall move on to the next one. So opinions do vary on the frame. Let's see if we can spot someone with a frame here. Oh, that's unusual. We did have a couple in here, didn't we? Yeah, so this is the frame I'm talking about. There are opinions differ as to whether it's good to have the open to work frame visible or not. If you're looking for a new role and it's okay that your current employer knows that you're looking for a new role, then it's probably worth having, because when it first came out, people worried that it made them look desperate. I think now it's that kind of sense has, I think, pretty much gone. If it was ever there in the first place. The more people that know you're looking for a new role, the more eyeballs there are, as it were, keeping an eye out for the possible opportunities for you. So when you set to work status, you have the option of it being only visible to recruiters or visible to everyone. If it's only visible to recruiters, then it's only the recruiters that are using LinkedIn's recruitment modules, the recruitment subscriptions, which is very expensive stuff, so a lot of recruiters don't use it. So there's some value to having that frame when you are looking, if it's okay for you to be visible looking, if that makes sense.
So we have a question from Julia. Is the
Yes.
open to work a good idea if you're a consultant?
That's an interesting one. I think possibly not, because that would come under providing services rather than being open to work. For me, when I see open to work, it looks like someone is looking for a job. It might be a contract or a fixed term engagement or something like that. But I think if you're a consultant, you're more, in a sense, running a business. I mean, if you're doing interim work, yeah. So as a consultant, you could be interim HR director or something, let's say. But if you're doing fractional work, I'm not quite sure if it quite creates the right sense. I would say try it. And if it doesn't get you the results you're hoping for, then you can, of course, turn it off again. Although the internet has a long memory, it doesn't apply that memory in the sense that as much as anything you put out onto the internet is pretty much there forever, people don't tend to look back or remember what's happened in the past. They're just looking at what they see right now, unless it's someone doing reference checks and so on. Sorry, I'm off topic. Do you need it as a consultant? I would think probably not, but it would certainly be worth experimenting with. Hope that answers the question. Okay, so moving on from the frame, there are a couple of other frames. There's the hiring frame for people who are business owners or hiring managers and are looking for new people. Now, is there another frame? At one point, I remember there was. frames. There are, yeah, hiring and open to work. Those are the two frames. That multicolored one is one I created. It represents the climate change, the climate action stuff from earlier the year. That's something else about me that you don't need to know right now. Right, so pronunciation. You will see next to some people's profiles, you've got a little speaker. And that is something that you can use to share the pronunciation of your name, is what it was designed for. And to access it, you have to go from the LinkedIn app on your mobile, on your smartphone. But you don't have to use it for pronunciation. It's just a recording. You could use it to record your elevator pitch, what it is that you do, or what it is that you are looking for. Just a little something else that you can put in. You can also have a video introduction. So if I refresh this, it might just do us the, can I do it? Yeah, there we go. You can see it's just showing a video, which is maximum of 60 seconds. I just previewed it there, that you can take a video of yourself with your introduction. I say if it's 60.1 seconds, it won't let you upload it. So it has to be 60 and no more. And you can upload it from the desktop, I think. I forget that. I'll have to go and remind myself at some point. So that's videos. Those are two little things that most people don't ever use or take advantage of. So those are things that will maybe tickle the algorithm a little bit more. Let's talk about banners next. So the banner is this thing at the top of your profile. And when you think about it, it takes up quite a lot of real estate. So why not use it to put your best picture forward, your best story forward? And it's a way of telling your story. Picture's worth 1,000 words and all that. If you are job hunting, you want to use something that resonates with the job you do, the industry you're in, or the sector that you're working for. There are circumstances in which you might just, as Natalie's done here, a painting. She's quite possibly a painter herself, and it's a picture of something that she's done herself. I haven't examined her profile. We're not a first level connection. We'll come back to connections later. And if you're in a job and not searching, by all means, use something that's expressing your personality. But if you're job hunting, you want to use something that's telling your story, that's showing your value and making it as easy as possible for someone to understand who you are, what you are, and how to get in touch with you. So in my case, there's some technical IT stuff. There's obviously connections or organizations going on in here. It certainly looks slightly geeky, doesn't it? What do I do? What kind of job title would I fill? Portfolio executive, interim, fractional, in the IT director, head of information technology kind of level. There's a few highlights from my profile. What do? I've got an MBA, I do agile transformation and leadership, and there's an email address and a phone number for me. Now, not everyone's going to want to share their personal email and phone number, and by all means, don't do that if you'd be uncomfortable doing it. You can, of course, get yourself a burner SIM. Just get a cheap SIM card, and just most phones these days either have a second SIM slot so you can have two numbers, or you put in an old phone, or sometimes you can have a virtual SIM. Any one of those. Google it if you don't understand what I'm talking about, please. But you could use it just while you're job searching, while you need to make it easy for a recruiter or a headhunter to find you. And then once you've got your new role, ditch it. Same for an email address. And when you do get yourself a temporary or disposable, if you like, email address, I would suggest go for something on Gmail rather than, certainly not Hotmail, because that generally isn't regarded with the same level of how shall I put it, credibility. I mean, it's not that Hotmail doesn't have credibility, it's just that there are more compromised Hotmail addresses than almost any other. So go with Gmail is generally the best option. You can just about get away with Outlook.com, which actually shares the same infrastructure as Hotmail, but Gmail's by far the easiest option. And again, once you've got your new role, if you don't need that address anymore, you can get rid of it. You can have multiple email addresses in your profile. If I was to go and look at my email addresses and go here, does it do that? Oh, is that take me somewhere else? I forget addresses. Let's put those. Here we go. Go there. This can show you that, of course, I've got lots of different email addresses from various companies I worked for in the past. So someone's trying to find me based on where I used to work. It gives that option, but it's going to take a primary email address, and that's the one that I keep as my main one. Now, if I was doing a job hunt and didn't want people to have my private personal email address, then this is where I can set up an extra one, make it my primary one while I'm job hunting, and then after that's all done, get rid of it again. So that was starter on banners. So what more can we say about banners? Having no banner at all is okay, but if you want to get that algorithm just a little more interested in you, then have yourself a banner. As I say, make it meaningful. Help it tell your story. So here's an example. Sergey is in cybersecurity. You can see the little shield here. This has some sense of that story in the picture. Here's Daryl. Daryl, I think, is on the call, aren't you, Daryl? Yes, Daryl is. Hope you don't mind me using yours. This is a great example. Daryl is looking at healthcare, medical. So we've got a picture in here that's helping to tell that story. You can see the heart and the pulse. What kind of roles? Client relationships, key account management, in the healthcare NHS medical devices sector. Daryl's got CIM and contact management expertise. There's an email and a phone number. This is a perfect example of a well-formed banner that's telling the story. In a few seconds, you get it straight away. Mary Ellen's here as well. I love using Mary Ellen's as an example. Tells the story. So Mary Ellen's level and sector, you can see VP level, senior manager. In valuations, acquisitions, we can see here investment banking, real estate. The picture's telling a story of commerce. The green little shoots here really resonates with ethical investing, ESG. So the other highlights are here. So you get the idea. The banner's telling your story in a quick little snapshot there. Here's another example. Christian has one that's obviously associated with the company he works for, but it's nice and clear, except for the email address, which is quite hard to read there, but there's other ways of getting to it. But it's fairly simple. It's not too busy. It's using just 2 or 3 colors. It's relatively simple. How to make them? Well, you want to use this thing called Canva. Canva is free. You don't need to install any special software. It runs off a browser. If you're using royalty-free images, then you don't need to pay anything at all, and there's plenty of them. And to start creating a design, you simply click on once you've logged in, which you can do with your profile, you click create design, and you can look for LinkedIn banner, LinkedIn banner, LinkedIn banner one. Background. Yes, that's actually, I think, about right. Background photo. Click on that. It gives you the template, which is the little frame here. And then you can go and find a picture that's relevant to your industry. I've done demonstrations on this sort of thing before, so we'll link up to that demo. Today I'm going to leave that. This time at the end, we may come back to it and do a quick banner for somebody. So that, I think, wraps up banners for now. So it's create a custom banner. It's a place to market yourself. Use royalty-free pictures relevant to what you want to be found for. and then overlay with text that's meaningful and helps tell your story. There's a few more pointers in the handout on that for job seekers and for entrepreneurs. And if you'd like me to help you create a banner, get in touch and we can come to an arrangement. So next, let's talk about what you might put after your name. So typically you just have your first and last name. Now what you can do is you can add your professional qualification and professional memberships in after your name. And let's think about why you would want to do this. So in the job searching world, there are, I think Natasha Cleave told us the other day, there's something like 42,000 people in the recruitment industry in the UK alone. And the average age is around 23, which means most of them are recently out of college, out of university, and they don't necessarily know very much about the industries you work in or the sectors. But what they will have is a job spec and a list of requirements that the senior recruiter has told them to go and shortlist 20 candidates with this kind of profile. One of the things that they'll often have in there is, do they have a degree? So if you want to start that researcher ticking boxes for you straight away, one quick way of doing it, rather than them having to dig down into your profile all the way down to the education section to find your degree, if it's sat there at the end of your name, they can immediately say, oh, tick, right, what else can I tick? And you're starting them thinking in the right direction, in the direction you want them to go. And so that's something you can consider. We had Mary Lane's open. You can see Mary Lynn here has included her MBA and MRICS. These are, now I wouldn't go crazy on this. I would pick one educational qualification and one membership rather than putting an enormous string of loads and loads of them. That can get a bit much. But just having those two while you're job searching, if you're comfortable doing it, it's a way of orientating the mind of the resourcer towards ticking the right boxes for you. So that's about that. Now, next we're going to talk about the headline. The headline is this section here that appears just underneath your name. There's lots of ways of approaching this. You'll find people who have put like almost a personal statement in there. I help millennials discover their purpose in life and follow it, or I help companies save money on their purchasing processes and increase their bottom line. You'll see things like that. This is a method sometimes known as the 5 Ps method that Johnny Walker suggests. Really good template to use and think about. So it's one way of doing it. I think when you're job searching, a lot of it's about keywords and keyword matching, which again, we're going to talk about more later on when we look at the LinkedIn's resume builder. There's a secret usage of that, which is just very useful for seeing how your profile measures up on keywords, which we'll come back to. But one of those places where these keywords will show up is in your headline. So if you take on this idea that LinkedIn is about getting found for what you want to get found for, then this is one of the key places to put that material. So you want to be found for the right sector, the right industry, and the right job titles. So it makes sense to start with job titles, perhaps 2 or 3 at most versions of what that job title might be. Client relationship manager, key account manager, contract manager. So we've got 3 examples here. Perfect job. And then we've got other things that it's going to be picked up in keywords is the sector or the industry. So we've got healthcare, NHS medical devices as towels, great examples. banking, asset management, investment, private equity. So those two elements, yes, they're up in the banner, but the banner isn't searchable. That's more eye candy for the resourcer. This is the stuff that's going to get picked up by the algorithm and by people doing keyword searches. What else would you put in the headline? You might just pick on something from your experience and your profile that is a particular asset, like being multilingual. I'm always incredibly impressed with people who can speak multiple languages. I speak only 3, and those are English, American, and Australian, so they don't count. All right, so that's stuff on headline. You could, if there is quite a lot of room in this now, I think it's about between 240 and 260 characters, depending whether you're doing it on a browser or on from the mobile. Believe it or not, they are different. So you can squeeze some extra characters in sometimes when you're doing this from a mobile. Right, so if you think about the target sector and industry part of this, if you are saying, well, I can do what I do for any industry, let's say you're an accountant. Of course, every area, every industry, every company needs accountancy. But what's your speciality? The more targeted your job search is, the more targeted you can be, the more you're concentrating your firepower. So you're more likely to reach your target or hit your target. What would say about that? The other thing is, the last thing to say about this is the use of the pipe character. That's this little vertical line that you see here between each section. Now, LinkedIn apparently favors the use of the pipe character. Now, some people will use a slash between everything, or they'll use commas, and it's okay to do all that, but apparently, from what we're told, using the pipe gives you this extra little bonus in the algorithm rating. So why not use it? Why does it do that? It might have something to do with Boolean logic operators, just for the really geeky amongst us, because the vertical line is used in Boolean logic. It's an OR symbol. So why does it do it? Who cares? It works. Might as well use it. Get the benefit of it. So that was about headlines. Now we're going to talk about location. So you'll see in some profiles that people talk about, they'll list very specific areas. These are nice generic ones. Ashford, that's out in Kent. Let's pick up a few of these, have a look through these. Guildford, that's a wide area. Swansea's good wide area. Johannesburg. These are all cities. Denstone. Now, I haven't heard of it. I don't know where that is. A way you can use this, now the default way of using it is to think about it's where I live. And recruiters will sometimes filter the candidates that they are shortlisting based on their distance from a particular location. Now, you may have all kinds of reasons for wanting to work in a specific location. So something you can do here is to make your location in your LinkedIn profile the location where you would like to work rather than where you live. Now, it might be that you've got somewhere else you can stay in a local area. You might have more than one house. Lucky person if you are. Or maybe you've got friends in an area and you can doing a work commute might work really well for you. But for whatever reason, it would seem sensible. There's a logic to it, isn't there, of putting in here your work, that the location you'd like to work in, or the wider area. You'll see what does mine say? Mine says London area. That one we can see says Denstone, so that might be a large area. I don't know. It sounds like a village. A lot of these other ones we've seen here were cities. Let's see if we can spot any more on here. Those as well. Hundreds of these coming up. Hazelmere. Does Paul work in Hazelmere? Probably not, actually. Virgin Money, or he might, of course, be working remotely. And in that sense, your location shouldn't matter very much at all. But recruiters, we said, average age 23, no disrespect to our younger brethren, but quite often they're just following a pattern. So they say we need people within 10 miles, 20 miles of this target location, because if you've ever had to commute for more than an hour every day for weeks, months, and years on end, you know how damaging that can be. So by using your target area in a spot where you're willing to commute to, or you've got those arrangements, you're again gaining on the algorithm a little bit. So that was about location. Right, next I want to talk about contact information. So if you're comfortable having your private email address visible, then by all means use it. If you're not, as we said a little bit before, get yourself a burner address and use that, and the same for your mobile number. The other contact information you can include in LinkedIn when you're building up your profile are things like websites that you're connected to, your other social media handles. So I've clearly got several Twitter identities for various different reasons, but you want to make sure that this sounds obvious, but I'm just mentioning it for completeness. If you're going to link your other social media accounts in with your LinkedIn account, or generally, you want to make sure that what's on there is professional if you're aiming for professional jobs, because recruiters and hiring managers do go and search you out on these things. It seems creepy, but that's what they do. Yeah, that's all there is to be said about that, really, isn't it? Is there anything else to say about connection, personal information here? No, I think that's probably it for now. If you've got questions, please do put them into the chat. Right, we are talking next about connections. Yes, so as I touched on at the beginning, I'm just going to quickly mention it in passing. Your first goal, if you haven't already reached it, is to get to 500 connections. And once you've got that, next goal is to get to 1,500. And that's to get the optimum attention from the LinkedIn algorithm. Beyond that, who should you connect to? Well, initially, you don't necessarily want to be too fussy about who you allow. If someone invites you to connect with them, if they're polite and respectful, there's no reason perhaps not to connect with them, because the power of the network is very often what's known as the weak connections, or the second level connections in your network. The first level connections are your primary connections, the people you're directly connected to. So if I go and look at my connections and I want to see, hang on, that's the wrong way of doing it. Right, if I just do a search, I can do this. Back to home. Let's go search, right, people. So first of all, it's showing us that there's 868 million people on LinkedIn. But if I just get it to show me my first level connections, so these are all connections I'm just directly connected to. This is where we run into my 30,000 problem, which we talked about earlier. So it'll show you your first level connections. Now, if we look just at the second level, so that's how many people are connected to the people that are connected to me, we'll see there are 830,000 of them. So typically, on average, people are connected to, I think the average at the moment is around 150 people. So if you're connected to 100 people, your second level is 150 times 100, or 15,000 people. So, and the opportunities that find you through your network, according to some research, 73% of those opportunities come through the second level of your network. So for that reason, so long as people are polite and considerate and not creepy, letting them connect you is not a bad thing, because you're getting access to all their first level connections, who are your second level connections. course, if anyone offends you in any way, just block them. You know, just disconnect from them, and you can get rid of that connection. When you are making connection requests, it's well worth making them with a personal note. And it's polite and respectful to do so. If people are really busy, they may not remember how you met, or why you're asking to connect. So wherever possible, do include a personal reason for connecting. If you've joined Convoy, then you're also invited to join Convoy's private members group, of which there are, as we can see here, 268 members. Now, if you're connecting to any of the Convoy members, which if you, having joined the group, you can go and see who are the members in the community, just connecting to everyone in the group, yeah, it's pretty much, they're here for the same reason you are. So I would hope that everyone in the Convoy group are quite happy to connect. So don't feel you have to be overly polite about it. Just go ahead and connect with each other, and it'll help you build each other's networks up. Connecting through groups is a good way of doing it. You don't want to put too many connection requests out in one go. LinkedIn will start to limit the number of connection requests you can make. It used to be quite high. Clearly, otherwise I would never have got to that silly 30,000 number. But if you're doing 10 a day or something like that, that's not generally going to be a problem. What you do need to do as well, though, is to manage connection requests that have expired. So I've got rather a lot of people requesting to connect to me at the moment, but the ones I've sent. So if I've sent connection requests, you can see I've usually put a comment in here. Ooh, naughty me! I did. Kate is not a relation, but we have spoken. In fact, I interviewed. If the connection request has been there a long time, let's say after a month or two, you probably want to go and tidy up and withdraw them. 4 months, I'm going to just take that away. They're clearly not that interested in connecting with me at this point, so that's quite all right. Everyone's got their own reasons. 3 months. I clearly haven't been cleaning my connections up for a while, so there we go. Nice and simple, easy thing to do, and just worth keeping things tidy. So we are making progress here. Good. So your About section, let's talk about that next. Go back to profile. So your About section is one of the really key sections in your profile. It shows you it shows a reader only the first 4 lines before you have to click on see more to see all of it. I think from memory, it's around 2,500 characters in here. You can look up the limits on Google, and it's well worth using all of it, but preferably without waffling or being too listy, as it were. What you want to capture here is something that is a bit like the profile section at the beginning of your CV, but a bit more in depth, and the sort of thing you want in those first 4 lines are your greatest achievements, or something that's really going to capture someone's attention. These are always work in progress. There's always going to be more things you want to do to it. But if you start that section with some of your greatest achievements, it gives someone the impetus to see more, so that they can see more of it. The same applies, and we'll come back to this for your experience section. It's only showing the first 2 lines before you have to click on see more. So you want to start off with your greatest achievements in that role, rather than a job description, which we'll come to in a moment. So About section, talk about your greatest achievements. Think about who is searching. What are they searching for? What is it you want to be found for? And the stories you put in here, and we'll talk about stories as well, so and so, make it measurable, because the more measurable it is, the more meaningful it becomes for for the reader. So in this case, my case, transform critical incident handling by implementing new processes that involved improve incident resolution performance by 60%, and client and employee satisfaction by 75% in 3 months. Then rolled out internationally. So there's quite a lot going on there, and it's an invitation in the case of a reader. So that's interesting. Our critical incident handling is a problem. Could you do the same for us? You do want to avoid cliches and buzzwords and trying to keywords when you're building this up. It is a place to get your keywords in. It's not impossible to use like to include a list of your primary skills, but do avoid listing everything you've ever touched or done. You just want the stuff that you want to be found for. So you might have been an expert in Windows 95 back in the days when that existed, but that's pretty much it's obsolete now, except on certain nuclear submarines or something. So you want to move on from that and go with the most current, most up to date stuff that is where you can create value and generate value. That is, relevant to what you want to be found for. And that leads nicely into the experience section. So let's talk about job titles for a moment. When I worked at ADP, I had this bizarre, crazy job title, which was Director UK and EMEA Global Products, Global Enterprise Technology and Services. And an old card of mine. That's not so meaningful outside of the company. It meant something within the company with the job families that they had, but it didn't mean anything outside. What kind of role was it really? It's an information technology director. So use a generic term for the job title or the job that you filled, rather than necessarily the job title itself. When you come to filling out background check information, after someone's offered you the job and they're doing all the background checks, yes, you may need to use the exact job title so that they can do all that background checking. But for something like this, and for your CV, make it human friendly. Make it easy for them to understand what it is you were, what it is you did. In the narrative under a job title, avoid using starting that up with the job description. You really want to start this out with the greatest achievements that people your greatest achievements, so people will click more and then look at to see what other things you did. You can still include elements of your job description because, of course, that can help capture the kind of keywords that they'll be searching for. But really, you're telling a story, a very short story. You're telling a story. On stories, use STAR and SOAR. So STAR and SOAR, do Google it. STAR is situation, task, action, and result. SOAR is situation, objective or obstacle, action, and result. Give them a number. Give the thing you've done wherever possible a number. Let's see if I've got a good example in my own. Of course, I'll be like the cobbler's children when I talk about all this stuff without having done it all of it myself. Actually, there was quite good example that actually we talked about just before in the about section, wasn't there? It's about here we go. Here's one: spearhead strategic ISO 20001 certification that was granted on first audit, number, with no non-conformities, another number, although it's not a digit, providing competitive advantage to increase sales by circa 15%. There is an extra bonus you can get on the STAR and STOR stories by adding an extra R at the end, which is for reflection, review, or retrospective. And so you could give your story: what was the situation, what was the task, objective, or obstacle, what were the actions you took, what was the result, and then you could add on, as I say, for extra bonus points, looking back on it, what did you learn? What was the takeaway? What was the, on reflection, what do you think about that experience or that role, that result. In terms of detail, you want to provide, a bit like on a CV, a good level of detail for the last 10 to 15 years that's relevant to the sort of jobs you want to apply for now. Experience that's further back in the past, for those of us who've been kicking around for a few more cycles around the sun, you probably want to put less detail about that, particularly if you've done 10 to 15 years ago or more. It's probably less relevant to the kind of job you want to do right now. You might have done a lot of, I don't know, bid management, let's say, but now you want to do something really quite different. So it's not that you want to erase any of that stuff, that's still there, but you might emphasize more of the transferable skills in that role now, rather than necessarily the specific day-to-day work that you did. There is the sticky question of what do you do with gaps in your CV? If you've been out of work for a while, if there's been a pandemic that's messed up the whole employment situation, what do you do to talk about those gaps? Now, there's some really good advice out there, well worth Googling for that. People sometimes use the term career break. That's worth doing. I noticed I think it was, yes, Natalie used an expression, personal goal pursuit. That's an interesting one. It's the first time I'd seen that was when I was looking earlier today. Certainly that sounds positive, and it's something that a recruiter or a hiring manager say, oh, that's interesting. What were you doing then? What did you learn? And it might be something that shows up in interests. Obviously, we're not a first level connection, so I don't see all of Natalie's information there, but you get the idea. You can perhaps deepen some of your story through that. What you want to avoid, though, doing perhaps is if you've done a whole bunch of volunteering and it's not in your main area of work that you want to showcase, then it might be better to keep the volunteering in the volunteering section. And at one point, I had some of this when I was doing volunteer responding RVS stuff during the pandemic. It was appearing as a kind of role, sort of fill in the gap. But then I thought better of it because it's taking part of the story away from what is my employment history, what is my experience, what do I bring to this potential new job. So see what it gets. If the volunteering was full time and you were learning something from it, by all means, it is experience after all. Put it in, but think carefully about what is it giving in your story, and what are the strongest experiences and value that you bring to an employer that you want to highlight. You might, if you've done a lot of different volunteering, group it together as just a single block of volunteering. So that's all possible. So next I want to show you something from the job tab. There is a useful function in LinkedIn down on the left-hand side here, which they've recently renamed. It may appear differently as to whether you have a premium LinkedIn subscription or not. It might just say Resume Builder here, or it might say Premium Resume Insights. And what you can do with it is you can, if you ignore all these things on the list, you can create a resume from your profile. So if you haven't actually got a resume, aka CV, don't worry about the term, it can create it from your profile. So what it's doing here, you can see it just about grayed out in the background. It's created a kind of CV for me. Now, I'm not specifically interested in that. What I am interested in is how well does that CV, which it's distilled from my profile, so it's a proxy of my profile, how well does that match with the kind of job I'm interested in doing? So let's say information, oops, it helps you to spell it right, doesn't it? Technology Director of Information Technology. It's found it. You do need to find it in the list. So if I pick that as the job title, what LinkedIn's now going to do is it's going to take what it knows about jobs with this job title and do a keyword rating or keyword matching with this proxy of my profile to see how well it matches. So it's working away here, and well, it's done quite well here. This is pretty good. We've got, I don't know what that is. I'll count them out. Is that 30 green ticks there? So it's found 30 keywords from the job title of Director of Information Technology. It's found those in my profile, so it would suggest I'm a good match for that kind of role. So you can use this as a way of saying, well, what keywords do I have in my role? That's good. And what else could I add? So we've got new suggestions I want to add here. So let's pick a different role. And oops, try again. And compare it with something else. Let's go for HR director, human resources director. Let's see how well I'd match as a human resources director. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 9 here. Okay, that's a good start. It's made a suggestion here. It's saying here, you don't have these. These would be good ones to see in your profile if this is the role you want to go for. We look under the question mark, it'll tell you these are the top keywords you can consider adding to your resume that are common to both your desired job title and past experience. So it would, what you can do with that is you can then go and work those into your profile. Where are you going to put them? You're going to put them either in your About section, which is now relabeled Summary in this proxy, and of course in your experience, in the narratives in your experience sections. So you could look for ways of finding a place to put those. If you have genuinely got them, if you haven't, you don't want to be doing that. If you have a premium LinkedIn subscription, you can click on Show More, and it's got some more suggestions of other words that would be good to see, other keywords it would be good to see in your profile for the job of Human Resources Director. Let's look at one more just for the sport, and let's go for marketing. Is it marketing analyst? There we are. Can't imagine I'd make a great marketing analyst. Oh, well, not too shabby. There's 9 there. It's clearly a bunch here that it would see as definitely you should have these in here, and more suggestions down here. So a useful little tool. We're not using it in the way they originally designed it, which is to create a resume or a CV, which you can then download, whatever. But we're using it to get some insight into how the LinkedIn algorithm is keyword matching with our profile. So when a recruiter goes and says, well, I'm looking for marketing analyst candidates. So they're going to go and stick marketing analyst in here, analyst, maybe London, let's say, and it's going to go and look for them. It's clearly not going to come up with my profile, especially as I'm searching from my own profile. But in doing that exercise, when they do that exercise, that search, it's going to look for the best match it can get for a role of marketing analyst. This person's actually got a current role, which is marketing analyst. If we look at this lady's profile, oh, this is a lovely example actually. She hasn't done her LinkedIn customization yet, but there's a Skynet, which I've terminated, right? But fantastic picture, face in the right direction, nice smile, brilliant example. That's a nice one to find. Really good, really good. Okay, so that was about how you can use the keyword checking part of the algorithm, or the keyword matching part of the algorithm, to just help you to tweak you and improve your profile. You'd be aiming for at least 10 green ticks in there, 10 matches, but you can of course game it up to more. The featured section, let's go back into the profile and you can see its featured section. This is this section here. This section will pop up either when you do a post, or you find a post that you want to feature in your profile. If we go and look for a post, let's just grab a random post. And when you click on the, sorry, I think it has to be in one of my posts. Sorry about that. Let's go and find one of my posts. A recent post. Activity. Lots of posts about this. Quickly. Hang on, let's look at my post. Actually, we could take an article. So an article, when you click in the ellipsis at the top right, you can get this option to feature it on the top of your profile. So now if we go back to my profile, you'll see in the featured section, there is the article featured right there. And you can do it for articles. You can actually upload an image for this. You could do it with individual posts. So there's a post example. And you can curate it. So once you've added it there, you can of course change it from time to time. But what you're showcasing, you're picking the best bits out of your profile and the things you've written potentially. And of course, if you want to have posts and articles in the featured section, you do actually have to do posts and articles. Excuse me. So people sometimes are very worried about doing posts. The best way or an easiest way to start posting, and well over 95% of users on LinkedIn have never posted anything, and most of them haven't even commented. So when you do posts, it's a way of, again, helping the LinkedIn algorithm discover you more often and to stand out more. I think for time, we've got about 15 minutes left. So doing posts is easy. There's lots of advice online. I'm not going to go into deep dive on posts right now because you can find lots of really good information out there. But if you're shy about posting, start with just commenting on other people's posts. And when you do, you get the opportunity to turn those comments into posts. So Annabelle, somebody I know, she's a first level connection. She's advertising or promoting a job. Now, there's lots of people in my network I can think of who are infrastructure engineers. So I'll support this post and I'll put a quick comment on there. In this case, I'm just going to say sharing for network reach so that it gets out to other people who are looking for work. So I'll put a hashtag in there as well. There he is. One R. Here's. Oops. Has to help it along. Oops. Post it. So if I was to put a more meaningful comment on something, it will sometimes invite me to turn it into a post. I put a comment on someone else's post. So Charles, brilliant chap. He often does talks for us on he did a series of 12 talks this year. He's going to do a series for Convoy next year as well. So that post is very fresh, 12 minutes ago. What's it about? I'm going to just quickly put more than that. So learn. So I'm going to put that on there. No, it's not going to do it this time. I was hoping it was going to pop up the message. So sometimes it'll pop up the message and it'll say, "Why don't you turn this into a post? Lead the conversation." It says. So it's a nice way of getting into posting. If you post something that you're not happy with, by all means, unpost it. You can delete a post that you put out there. I mean, if someone's read it, they've read it, or if they've copied it down, they've copied it down. But it's in most cases, as long as you're being respectful and sensible about this sort of thing, then and not too controversial, it's not likely to cause you any problems. Repost is something that's come up more recently. Only in the last, I think, 3 to 6 months has that appeared. So that's an interesting way of helping to support other people's posts. I saw a question pop up. Is it worth paying to have your LinkedIn profile improved? Well, if you're paying me to improve your LinkedIn profile, of course. And there is so much good information out there. I think it's a question of do you do some of the work yourself at least before you start paying someone else. The LinkedIn algorithm is fickle, so you may pay someone to do a whole load of work on it, and yes, you see a few more hits as far as showing up in search. But if you do everything that I'm talking about here, and what I run out of time, because I will run out of time before I get to the end of my list, you'll pick it up on the handout. If you were to do all of those things, you'll probably get as much value as you would out of paying someone else to do your profile for you. On the other hand, if you're just never getting around to doing it, or you haven't got time to do it, then paying someone else to do it is probably not the worst thing in the world if it's affordable for you. I wouldn't pay someone to do it out of desperation, though. If that helps to answer the question. Is it worth trying to hide your age, inexperience, and education sections? There is a big problem with ageism. That's kind of well known these days. So one of the things you can do to protect yourself on that is you basically just don't put the date of your when you passed your degree. So if you see my catches up, if we go down to my education, there's no dates for when I did my degree. I did an online MBA last year and this year. It's distinctly recent, so no problem leaving the date on it really at this point. But if it was something like I actually graduated from my degree in 1990, so 32 years ago. I'm starting to feel old. No wonder I feel old. So maybe I wouldn't put that on there. So that will give some concealment. It's harder to do with your work history, but you could choose not to put your really early history on there. You'd go back 15 years and just leave the rest off. You don't have to put it on there. I started working at BlackBerry in 2005. So is that far back enough? Is that sufficiently far back? That's 17 years. That's probably far enough for most purposes. I did do a lot of work in the financial services industries, and I still work in that area, so I tend to keep that on. And I'm just very fond of the fact that I used to work for the London Fire Brigade, so I don't mind having that on there. But does it have a detrimental effect in some roles? Undoubtedly, it does. Is LinkedIn Premium worth it? Well, the free 30 days is worth it. Is it worth it beyond that? It depends what use you're making of LinkedIn. It's supposed not to. Well, can we really say that? Does it push you up in the rankings on LinkedIn? Hard to tell. I think it's what's in your profile and your activity that is likely to get you most increase in search appearances and views. So, and the number of connections you have has a significant impact on the number of appearances and views you'll get. So, is it worth having? You could get it on a monthly basis. Try it for a few months. Look at what it's doing. Your analytics, your private dashboard is a good thing to keep an eye on. You can also keep an eye on what's called the social selling index, which is the LinkedIn. This is a free thing. Anyone can access this. LinkedIn.com/sales.ssi. This will give you an index. Don't worry about what this number is. 72 is actually quite high. To get up to beyond 80, I'd have to be paying for other LinkedIn modules like the Sales Navigator itself. I don't actually pay for this. This is if you like the free element of it. But what's it telling me is I'm in the top 2% of my industry, the top 2% of my network, and that my current index is 72. It's been up at 75, I think was the highest I ever saw it. Gives you some indicators here of what you can do to improve it. But it's not the absolute number that's most useful to you. It's what direction is it going. So you might take if you look at it for the first time today and it says, I don't know, 25 or something. If it's going up over the coming weeks and months, 30, 40, 50, then that's the direction you want to go. It means you're doing the right things. But I wouldn't obsess about it. What have we got time for? I think I've covered the recent questions. And we've got only 5 minutes left. Holy. The time flies, doesn't it? It really does. So last comment on posting, turn comments into posts. Sometimes, as I said, you get invited to. You could then link a bunch. If you're doing doing posts on a series of articles, a series of posts on things that are of interest to you, you could chain them together and make them into an article, which gives you another kind of post. You could also write an article, long form article, and turn that into posts. You can break it up into pieces and make them into posts, add them to your featured section. If you were to do a series of articles, you could turn them into an ebook. Ebooks are really good to include in your mix. Books carry this huge weight of credibility. So if you have written a book, you can add your book into your profile as a publication. I wrote something back in the 2010s, so it's there. They're very useful. You could put your CV in the featured section, but if you do, please make sure you redact any information that you want to keep private, like your address and things like that. Just think about it carefully. As they say, if you've done it, it ain't bragging. They say that in Texas. So it's okay to talk about your achievements. So yes, feature sections is showcase. I want to say a couple of things in the last couple of minutes about the education section. So here's down to education. You want your education section to kind of demonstrate your learning journey. The ability to learn new things is one of the greatest most valuable assets you have to a new employer. So sharing your ability to learn, showing your ability to learn is valuable. And lifelong learning is a good thing too. Okay, I'm 57 now. I'll admit it. I'll confess. But I love learning, and I'm looking at even doing a level 7 certificate next year in coaching because it interests me. It keeps my brain fresh. There's a section on skills. Go. I can't spend much more time on it today, but it's worth including skills. You'll find when you apply for jobs now, you're sometimes invited to do a mini evaluation on the skills for that job or for a similar job, and it will then post your skills in your profile. It limits you to 50. So if you're talking about skills in things that are just obsolete, just take them off. It's not worth having them on there anymore. Volunteering is a good section to include. Where is it? It's up here somewhere. After experience. There's volunteering. There it is. There's volunteering. Some of the sections can be moved around. Volunteering is useful because it gives a more rounded sense of who are you as a person, what might you be like to work with. It's your commitment to community, and society. And recommendations, the last thing I'm going to mention today. It's important to receive them. It's also doubly important to give them as well. And don't necessarily just make them reciprocal. The recommendations you give also say something about who you are as a person. Also demonstrate your articulation and things like that. So that's what I'm going to stop with that there now. Stop the share. Please do what? Please do fill out our survey. Thank you, Gisela, for dropping it in there. It's always good to know what you're thinking and what's working for you in these talks and what you thought of this one. I'd love to know. I will anyone who's registered, as I said before, will get the connection to. We'll get a link for the talk, the recording, and the handout, which has got even more in it than I've talked about today. Our speaker next week is Quentin, I think, isn't it?
Yes, it's Quentin Drain
Quentin
with
Drain.
a reality check, wrap up the year well.
Yes, wrapping up the year and getting ready to think about what's in for next year. Well worth doing.
Yeah.
Keep extending your networks. That's really important for your profile. So keep doing that. And yeah, do remember to take a break from your LinkedIn. You know, remember to take a break from your social media, not just every day, but sometimes it's worth taking a break from it for several days or for a week. Just leave things be and then come back to it. Once you've done all these modifications to your profile, let it rest. Let it sit for 4 to 6 weeks before you make more major changes. And lastly, share the journey. Join a group. Whether you join Convoy community or some other group for your job hunt, join a group, because the journey is better when it's taken with others, when it's taken together. It'll help you with support, it'll help you with accountability, and it'll help you with keeping yourself balanced. So that's, I think, a wrap for today. You know where to go to find Convoy. So that's that. I need to somewhere. I've got if my screen will show up. Wanted to find the yes, except my browser has crashed. So the live stream is probably going to carry on. And I wanted to just stop the recording, which we can do there. But just to say thank you all for coming. Really appreciate you being here. And we'll see you at the next one. If you want to hang on for a bit afterwards, we will do we will have just a fun Q&A for anyone who'd like to. So